It is 8 minutes past 8 now, and first, Claire Wood was murdered by her ex-boyfriend. He had a history of violence against women, but she had no idea. Well, just over 2 years ago, Claire's Law, otherwise known as the Domestic Violence Disclosure Scheme, came into force, allowing you to check whether your partner has a record of domestic abuse.
The law has been already used in Warwickshire with both women and men investigating their other half. BBC Coventry and Warwickshire's Liz Thorle has more information.
53 people have contacted Warwickshire Police in the last 2 years to find out whether a new or existing partner may have a violent past. Of those applications, 5 have been made by men, the other 48 by women. Detectives shared information in 47 of those instances where a person is deemed to be at risk from their partner. Warwickshire Constabulary had more than 2,500 incidents of domestic violence and abuse reported to them in a 6-month period last year. Also last year, more than 100 frontline police officers in Warwickshire received specialist training. A quarter of women and 1 in 6 men will be a victim of domestic violence and abuse in their lifetime.
Astonishing facts there. While Zoe Dronfield is from Finham, her former partner was abusive and attacked her with a knife in her sleep. Good morning, Zoe.
Good morning.
Goodness me, thank you very much for coming on. Very brave of you to speak about this. Can you talk us through the relationship leading up to the attack?
Yeah, I mean, Jason, it was a normal relationship, started off great, and obviously going out for meals, staying over in hotels, everything was fine. So, I mean, there was no kind of, there was no obvious signs that he was an abuser or had even previously been abusive. He wasn't an angry person, but towards and the run-up to the attack, he had kind of changed, his personality had changed, and things had started to change within the relationship. So I was trying to actually end the relationship at that point, which...
What had changed?
He was disappearing, he was going off, not coming back. I couldn't get hold of him, yet he was quite controlling. He would know exactly where I was. When when we started the relationship, he was really helpful with the family situation and everything. My dad got really poorly at the beginning, but then before the attack, he changed, he wasn't helpful, he'd just become this really aloof, kind of not interested guy. But on the same token, that if I tried to kind of distance myself from him, he would then up the ante and then the control would kind of switch in. And
then, goodness me, one day, the worst thing happens.
Yeah.
You're sleeping and he attacks you.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, it was awful. I mean, obviously... there was a run-up to the attack where he'd come and kicked the door and I'd had to phone the police, and the police were aware, but this behaviour was escalating. Now I understand domestic violence and understand the traits of it and the pattern of behaviour. This pattern of behaviour was an escalation, and the police really should have noticed that. He was also known to police because he was a serial perpetrator of domestic abuse. So, I mean, really, I was a sitting duck. It was waiting to happen, but literally, the police can't do anything unless the laws are in place. They can only work with what they've got, unfortunately, which is why I'm kind of campaigning for the serial register that we're going to probably talk about. Yeah,
we're definitely going to talk about. But then, I just can't imagine. I've never been the victim of any sort of domestic abuse in that way. But you wake up and what do you see? Describe what happened?
Well, I was woken to thuds to my head, and then it was the shock and at the time, it was like an out-of-body experience. I was like, what are you doing that for? In the most normal voice. But then I don't really have much of a recollection of the whole attack. I mean, it was hours long, went through till the morning. And obviously I had to plead with him to get me help. But it's the shock of thinking that somebody that you're with who apparently loves you and you're his princess and all the rest of it. I mean, it just sounds so ridiculous now when you hear it. But, at the time you think, wow, how can you do that to me?
Well, he attacked you in your sleep with a knife.
Yeah.
And so you're incredibly lucky to be here.
Yeah, yeah.
If you knew about Claire's Law there, would you have checked out his background?
I think this is the thing. This is the questionable thing. I mean, Clare's Law, obviously, it's a step in the right direction. You know, at least they're recognising that something needs to be done. But that's the thing. Would you check somebody in a new relationship? Now, I had heard things that, you know, Jason was this or that. Hadn't really taken much notice of it. Now, you know, maybe if you'd got a disclosure from the police, you might take it more seriously. But I think actually perpetrators need to be monitored by the police, monitored and tracked by the police. Now, with sex offenders, they're on a register. Now, if you're a serial perpetrator and you go on and constantly reoffend, then somehow there should be a way of monitoring these people, because they're obviously not rehabilitated, yet they're in society, you know, carrying on with new relationships. Now, Jason had several other relationships. They all contacted me when I went public in the media with my story, and you know, they were on fast response with police, you know, and also one of the victims that was 10 years prior to mine, he was actually sent to prison for, and she was a police officer, you know. So it's crazy, isn't it? Because you think, well, you know, he'd even done this to a police officer. That's how deluded he was and how entitled he was in order to just continue to break the law.
So you think Clare's Law doesn't actually go far enough? You're hoping to get this petition going. Tell us about that.
Well, Clare's Law, you know, it's too victim focused. It's basically putting the onus on the victim or the potential victim to go and find out that information. Whereas if they are an abusive person, the focus should be on them to be tracked by the authorities that are paid to do so. You know, so. What was the question?
So you're hoping your petition goes further and tries to get it more serial-led?
Yeah, the petition's had over 125,000 signatures on it, and it's been going for a couple of years. And also, it's now in the Home Office for a Home Office consultation, so they're actually talking about the results of people who've submitted information into the Home Office. So, you know, hopefully they'll see sense that actually it needs to be the authorities that have the onus on them to track and monitor the abuser, rather than it being victim-led.
Well, thank you. We know that Jason is serving a 14-year prison sentence for what he did to you. And if people want to find out more about the petition, where do they go?
If they go to change.org and then put serial perpetrator register in, they can go in and sign the petition online.
Thanks very much, Zoe, for telling us your story. Zoe Dronfield from Finham, who was attacked by her former partner. Thank you, Zoe.